Aloha, it's Katie, and I'm back with another college video. This time I'm interviewing some of my friends who got into amazing schools. A lot of you in particular have been asking how to get in the Ivy League, so I'm interviewing people who have gone accepted to join me this video and share some of their experiences, their stats, extracurriculars, essays, interviews, and all that good stuff so that they can give you advice when it's your turn to apply. But first, if you're new to my channel, you should subscribe down below to join our Alohana. We welcome you to our family. You can expect a lot more college videos coming up. I upload new videos every weekend. I also just started my vlog channel for college, so hopefully you can expect a lot more college videos coming soon. Also give this video a thumbs up and comment any requests you have down below. Let's meet these students. You want to start by introducing yourself and where you've been accepted?
So I'm Janelle. I am a really broke person, but that's all good. I have been accepted to Dartmouth College, Vanderbilt University, Yale NUS College, and Harvard University, and I've decided to attend Dartmouth College in the fall.
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Enrique, and I'm going to start at Yale University in the fall.
Hi, I'm Ranbir, and I'm going to UPenn Wharton.
Do you know what you're majoring in specifically?
The plan is I will find my concentration in Wharton, which will probably be something quantitative oriented, so maybe finance. And then I will look to do computer engineering or electrical engineering in the engineering college.
What I'm thinking about majoring in right now is biomedical engineering. The only thing about that is it's a really intense major and there's a lot of prerequisites. I'm still debating whether I should go into that or history, science, medicine, and public health, which is another Yale-specific major that I thought was really interesting.
$1 million question. How are your stats?
Firstly, I just want to establish that I took no review courses. I only use books and practice papers and past papers. My first time around, I got a 1510 because I started studying really hard for my math, so my math was a lot better than my English. Then my second time around, I realized I should probably bump up my English as well. I got 1540 at that time, but because my math actually decreased by 10 points, but my super scored SAT came out to about 1550.
Somebody should give me SAT too.
Afterwards, okay, so funny story, when I was about to take the March SAT, it actually got in my results for the pre-ACT the day before, so I registered really quickly for the June ACT because I ended up getting a 35 in the pre-ACT, which then I did get in the actual ACT, and I think it really helps that I studied really hard for my SAT because that way, when I transferred to the ACT, I was able to use the skills I learned for the SAT at a faster pace, which then helped me do on the ACT. My GPA is about a 6.67. The thing I think that really helped was that I did show consistent improvement throughout. I ended up getting predicted 45.
My stats were actually very unimpressive. For ACT, I took it twice, and my first composite was a 32. My second one was a 33, 36 in reading, 36 in English, 32 in science, and a whopping 28 in math because I didn't bring a calculator. For SAT2s, I took US history and English literature, and I had over 750 for both of them. I don't recall the breakdown. I'm trying to forget my IB predicted was in the first round 42, second round 43. So my GPA when I applied was a 6.67 on the 7-point scale. For
my ACT, I got a 34. I don't know my GPA, but I know my split. We have the IB curriculum in my school, so I got a 44 first semester, a 44 second semester, a 42 third semester, and a 44 again fourth semester.
So what extracurriculars did you do in or outside of school?
I focused my extracurriculars on 3 strands, the strands that I've been most interested in, which are public speaking, writing, and service, service being the most prominent. For each of the 3, I had leadership positions. Service, I was president of iCare Council, which is our school level service council. Also Project Best, which is a nonprofit that I co-founded with my best friends, and we are reacting. He also was a co-founder, yes. It's basically a nonprofit that aims to promote education and math, English, and science skills. We've also managed to help over 50 kids get into science high schools in the Philippines, which has been probably the most rewarding part of my high school career. Public speaking, I did the usual Model United Nations and Forensics and Debate. Writing, I was co-editor-in-chief of Liham, a creative magazine that was actually dead for a few years, but we revived it in our senior year.
So what extracurriculars did you do in and outside of school?
Alright, so I'm taking this directly off my activities list from the Common App. I started this project. What I did is I made a cookbook and I sold that cookbook generated around $5,000 and used that money to buy solar panels for a remote village where I live. The second activity I listed is that I brought that organization and I tried to put it into our school as an off-site club, kind of. The third activity I listed is that I was the president of our batch in sophomore year, and I was in the council once again in senior year. I put the high school council, which I was a part of during my junior year. Then I put Project Best, which you might have already heard from Janelle. I've been a part of the varsity team for cross country for 4 years, so throughout high school, and I was the captain in my senior year. I put track and field, which I was in varsity for 3 years. A Global Issues Network conference that I went to, a peer mentoring organization that a few of my friends and I started up to help children in elementary school who are having family-oriented problems. And I was a part of the varsity team for tennis during my freshman and sophomore year.
Most of my extracurriculars were in school. I did a lot of MUN music. I played in bands. I sang in choirs, a cappella groups. We have like a varsity choir that actually travels to a conference, and I went for that for a couple of years. I was student government. This year, I'm student body president. I also did some charity work outside of school. I got connected with some NGOs and did some service trips with them to focus on like this medical charity that did free clinic. So I then went on some volunteer trips with them. I also did a couple internships. I did a 3-week-long internship at the Asian Development Bank. I also did a 2-week-long observership at Johns Hopkins. I also did a lot of like performing. I did like acting and stuff. I was emceeing for a bunch of events, and yeah.
Do you have any awards you want to share that you also put on your app?
So I actually was a little bit creative with my application. So I put the awards that meant the most to me, which may have not actually meant as much to them. During our prom of the sophomore year, I was voted most likely to change the world, which is personally my favorite award I've ever gotten. So I put that. In freshman year, I got an award which was about approachability, and so I put that award there. Then I put the physics award, which I won in sophomore year, and the leadership award, which I won in sophomore and junior year.
As a general tip before I say what I received, scholarships you receive matter the most because they come from an external institution and not necessarily your school. So I'd say prioritize those rather than your school-specific awards. The awards that I put were my Bryn Mawr President's Book Award, my English Department Award, my History Department Award, Journalism Award, and my Service Award.
Okay, one thing a lot of people don't know about me is in freshman year, I did this, it's called the World Scholars Cup. It's like an academic decathlon kind of thing. My team came second in the regional round, we made it to the global round, and qualified for the final round where we actually came first overall.
So, what did you write about in your essays?
For the supplements, I really just talked about what I really was passionate about. So the two topics I had to come up with was what community are you part of, and just basically an essay on anything. So for the community essay, I talked about how I feel at home on the stage, and just being in an ensemble for a choir or a play really was like the community that I really thrived in and really enjoyed being part of. For the any essay topic, I talked about basically how I initially was one of those kids who always wanted to be a doctor. And then after going to observe doctors, I realized this is really cool, but maybe I don't want to do this just yet. I maybe want to take medicine at a different angle, like through public policy and public health. My other essays, Yale had a bunch of short answer questions, and I just basically answered them honestly. I didn't try to fluff them up as much as some people did. Like one of them was, if you were to invite anyone to a talk, who would it be? And the person I said was Prime Minister of Bhutan, because I wanted to talk about their like environmental policy and how instead of GDP they measure their productivity and gross domestic happiness, and I thought that was really interesting to see.
For my Common App, I actually talked about my obsession with magic, how that definition of magic has now changed. Before, I was obsessed with Greek mythology and all these superpowers. Now, what magic means to me is something that can be accomplished through innovation. When you look at innovation at its basis, it almost appears magical. Like I referenced the way Shazam magically identifies a song you play on your phone, and how I want to use this magic to make a positive impact on our world in the future. In Penn, there is usually one supplement, but I applied for a program called MNT, and so there were 2 additional supplements for that. First supplement was Why Penn. After doing a lot of research, I talked about why I wanted to join Penn, the interdisciplinary focus, and the certain clubs they had that I knew I would look forward to joining. 2 supplementary essays One was about leadership, wherein I talked about that project I had undergone myself. The second one was why MNT. I talked about a research paper I had done in mathematics and how I wanted to use innovation to change the world once again.
My Common App wasn't my best essay, but it did its job of conveying my background, which I believed I needed to point out. Because personally, this is not going to apply to everyone, but I come from a low-income family. I'm actually a scholar and will be a scholar as well at Dartmouth, and did apply for financial aid at all my other schools. I made sure to talk about my background coming from a low-income family in the Philippines, then attending, because there's this huge cultural shock that happened when I was a freshman. It really affected who I was and how I saw the world, but while it was a sort of a setback, it was also a setup for a lot of the things that I was able to achieve afterwards with the help of all these amazing people who I have the honor to call my friends. Yeah, so that was my Common App. Supplements, I'll talk about Dartmouth because that's what really matters. There's two parts to the supplement. The first one is why Dartmouth, and then the second one, you get to choose between 6 different prompts, and I chose the prompt that talked about being dealt a hand of cards and how did you play it. I wrote about my experiences once again as a student at ISM living 2 different worlds. There was a line where I talked about having to do my math homework occasionally in the jeepneys and stay really late at to suck off the internet because I didn't have a stable connection at home. But I talked about how the hand that was dealt me, these cards that I've been born to play, were not circumstances that held me back, but rather empowered me to go beyond. The other part of the supplement, which is why Dartmouth, kind of determines fit. I talked about the D plan, which you can look up, and how the flexibility of the academic program empowers me to discover unexplored interests, while also empowers me to chart my own path.
Who did you ask for your teacher recs, or how well do you think they are both for you?
The teacher recommendation process was actually the one thing I tried to strategize on. I knew I was going to ask my subject where I had the greatest strength, which is English, and what I wanted to do in college, which is economics. So I made sure to build good relationships with my economics and English teachers.
I asked my math teacher and a teacher who actually left my school. She was someone who I was very close to outside of school through the service project I had done and through the summer camps I had been to.
So I asked 2 teachers who I actually had relationships with. One of my teachers actually taught me 2 classes. She taught me both history and TOK, so I got her to write me my rec. And another one of them, my English teacher, also coached me for rugby. I chose them because I thought they knew me best and could write about me.
How are your interviews? Do you have any interview tips?
This is my favorite part. If anything, I believe that I got into the schools that I got into because of my interviews, and maybe my essays, but probably my interviews. My best interview was definitely for Dartmouth and Harvard. My Dartmouth interview went on for 3 hours, and my Harvard interview was about 2 hours, which I've been told isn't really standard. But what I did in the interview was really just talk about my passions. So for Dartmouth, I talked about education and poverty alleviation and related that to my extracurricular work, my academic work, and was just really able to hold a conversation. End of the day, you don't want your interviewer to just repeat your stats. Your stats are already included in your Common App. You want your interviewer to present a more undiscussed side of you that you weren't able to really bring out in the Common Application. The thing is, the application works like a puzzle, and every single piece comes together to create the picture of who you are, and you have to try to use every component of it as a puzzle piece. So if you believe that there's something you weren't able to convey in the Common App, bring that in your interview, or try to improve on the other pieces that you have.
I actually think my interview didn't go so well. The reason why is that I wasn't so focused as to what I wanted to focus on in college. I feel like I was able to speak well with regards to the business side of things, but not with regards to the engineering side of things. In my interview, I said I wanted to do mechanical engineering despite the fact that my research paper, which I thoroughly enjoyed, was completely based on electrical engineering. My interviewer even said, "I hope you know which program you're applying to." So at that point, I knew I was pretty much screwed. I suggest that you clarify what you want to do in advance so that it's easier for you to talk with your interviewer.
Okay, my interview was pretty interesting. I'm a generally funny, charismatic person, so I was really hoping to pull that out, but when my interviewer came, she was super nice, but it was kind of like very structured interview where she'd ask me a question about like what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and I didn't really get to pull out all my charisma and all my like specific niche knowledge. It went okay, I think, but I don't think that was really like a turning point in my application.
What do you think was the hook or what got you accepted?
Personally, for me, I believe that my story, my vision, my academics just all came together to present a holistic picture of myself that for some reason appealed to the subjective tastes of my admissions officers.
I actually have no idea what my hook is. Some people say it might have been like how adaptable I was as a person because I transferred to a school in sophomore year and managed to try to make the most out of it.
I think if you do something you really enjoy and you really focus on it, it will make a big difference in your application. But I hope you do this based on actual merit, actual feelings of wanting to do something rather than just for college only.
Overall, is there anything you would have done differently in the college process?
I really wish I had opened myself up to more options from an earlier point because when I did start this process, start touring schools sophomore year, I was really thinking Harvard, Harvard, Harvard. When I did get to Yale, it was a lot more fitting into my personality and I really liked everyone there and the environment seemed a lot more supportive. So I really wish I had opened myself up to these options earlier on. Another thing I wish I did differently was probably not starting super late on my testing. I was supposed to take the October SAT in junior year, missed the registration deadline. I was supposed to take December. Missed the registration deadline. I was supposed to take January. I registered past the registration deadline, so I was actually on the wait list for the testing center. Remember those deadlines?
Apply to your dream school. Very intimidating sometimes when the counselors talk to you, and even though you might think you have a chance, you might feel compelled not to apply to that school. I say if you think you have a solid shot, if you've talked to your parents and they too think you have a solid shot, go for it because it's better to get rejected and try than to not try at all.
Start my essays earlier. I feel that my essays would have been much better if I had time to reflect on them. I also wish I didn't ask too many people to look over my essays. It came to a point where there were too many opinions and I didn't know which ones mattered more, which ones to listen to. Maybe keep it down to like an objective adult who actually like looks at essays for their jobs, a close friend who knows you and can call you out when you're not being authentic. Yeah, maybe like another friend who's kind of like a mentor.
Do you have any advice for students who are about to go through this college application process?
Don't do something just for your resume, because I know a bunch of people did that and didn't really turn out so great. They were just unhappy because they were doing things they didn't really enjoy. And it didn't communicate when they were writing their essays. Do what you love, do the best for your abilities, because that's the only way that they'll like show that you actually are a diverse and interesting person. Because if you're doing things that you think they want you to do, you're gonna end up unhappy because you're forcing yourself to do all these things you don't enjoy. If you're doing things that you genuinely do enjoy, it will communicate a lot better on paper. People will actually see your commitment, your passion, and that's one thing that I think that they actually look for in applicants. They want people who are passionate about things, who have genuine interests and want to take those further through their time at university.
Do not be focused on any name brands. Rankings, they only matter when taken into account by specific things that you really want. Like if you want a small school, then look at the best small schools with the best programs for your major. Don't get too focused on QS top universities, US News top universities. At a certain point, I guess when you're already like the top 20, top 50 even, these schools will have limitless opportunities for you to take advantage of. And it's not about having the most opportunities, the best school, because at the end of the day, it's about you as a person, like what you do with those opportunities, how you leverage them to make what you want out of life. Just remember who you are throughout this process because college is a 4-year deal. You have to make sure that, especially for international students who are going to be away from their families, you have to make sure that where you go is really a place you can love for the next 4 years, is a place where you can grow as a person while also feel comfortable enough to take on challenges. At the end of it, you have to be really excited about where you want to go.
You might be thinking, how am I going to get through senior year? How am I going to do all of this? Really, everyone thinks that way, but everyone ends up going through it. Everything ends up fine. Just push through it. Don't feel that worried because you will be successful if you try hard. I feel like working hard is the most important thing in high school because it can really get you to places.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that video and heard some wise words from these students. Give this video a thumbs up if you want them back on my channel. Subscribe down below to join our family. Again, we welcome you. I upload new videos every week. Follow me on social media at alohakatieg and scan my Snapchat. You can click the top right eye to watch more of my videos. I will see you very soon with another new video. Bye guys!